Colorado just rewrote its AI law, ChatGPT is now linking to your bank accounts, and Microsoft has completely re architected its relationship with OpenAI. These are not minor shifts, they're fundamental changes in how we build and deploy AI. No BS AI briefing brought to you by Proactive AI. Welcome back. I'm your host, Vikash, and this is where builders get straightforward AI news without the fluff. First up, OpenAI is diving headfirst into personal finance, adding bank and brokerage links to ChatGPT. I mean, think about that for a second. We're talking about a US only preview right now, specifically for ChatGPT Pro users. But it's a massive move. They're using Plaid, that familiar secure data network, to connect to your bank accounts and investment portfolios. What does this mean in plain English? Your ChatGPT can now analyze your spending patterns, track your subscriptions, show you your balances across different accounts, break down your investment portfolio, and even help you understand your debt. You can ask for advice on major financial decisions, and it'll present you with a financial dashboard all within ChatGPT. Crucially, and this is important for builders, your data isn't used for training their models without your explicit opt in. That's a significant privacy guardrail. For builders, the interesting part is this signals the birth of a whole new product category. It's the first major consumer AI tie in with real time financial data, and it immediately puts a stake in the ground for what's possible in fintech AI. If you're building in that space or even adjacent to it, those plaid style integrations provide a clear blueprint for how to securely access and leverage sensitive customer data. And that opt in data use model, it sets a very high privacy bar for any sensitive domain, not just finance. It's a good example to follow. Next, we've got some big news out of Redmond. The 10-day Microsoft and OpenAI deal has been reworked, and Azure is leaning heavily into a multi-model strategy. This is huge. Pershing Square, the investment firm, recently disclosed a core Microsoft position, and with that, we learned the partnership between Microsoft and OpenAI has been restructured. The critical detail: Microsoft's exclusive distribution rights for OpenAI models have been removed. This is a game changer. It means Microsoft is now openly pursuing a robust multi-model strategy within Azure, actively supporting and integrating other top-tier models like Anthropic's Claude, Google's Gemini, and Meta's Llama. In fact, their 2026 capital expenditure of $190 billion is largely targeting AI infrastructure to support this broadened approach. For context, Bill Ackman's firm now values Microsoft's 27% stake in OpenAI at roughly $200 billion. Wild, right? Why does this matter for us, the builders? It means less vendor lock in on the most critical AI infrastructure layer. If you're building on Azure, you'll have greater optionality, able to pick and choose the best model for your specific use case rather than being confined to one family of models. This multi-model embrace encourages a best-of-breed selection strategy for your applications, and it significantly lowers the friction for switching across different model providers if a better, cheaper, or faster option emerges. It's all about flexibility now. Also, Colorado just passed SB 26-189, adopting a functional material influence standard for AI regulation. This happened before the state's previous law, SB 24-205, even had a chance to take effect, which is pretty rare. What's the core idea here? The new law regulates any automated tool that materially influences consequential decisions. We're talking about things like employment, credit, housing, insurance, or access to public services. If your AI touches those areas, you now have clear responsibilities. You'll need to provide user notice that an AI is involved, disclose if an adverse outcome occurs because of the AI, and crucially, give users the right to a meaningful human review of those decisions. Developers like us must document the intended uses of our AI systems, the training data we used, and any known limitations of the model. Interestingly, simple administrative tools are specifically excluded from this. For builders, this is a much clearer outcome-based template for compliance, and it's likely to guide how other states approach AI regulation. Instead of vague, high risk categories, it focuses on the actual impact our AI has on people's lives. This approach emphasizes transparency, user notice, and the essential role of human review, giving us a more actionable framework for building ethical and compliant products. It's a pragmatic approach to a complex problem. Finally, AI CCO has issued an enterprise guide to unified multi-model platforms. This isn't just some fluffy marketing piece, it's a practical guide designed to help teams navigate the sheer explosion of models we saw in 2026, over 255 new releases. The guide offers workload based model selection guidance, helping you figure out which model is best suited for which task. It also recommends intelligent cost routing strategies, which they say can reduce blended token costs by a staggering 60 to 80%. And here's a real data point: they report a 680% year over year growth in agent pattern API calls. That's a massive jump. Why does this matter for builders? It provides a crucial practical framework to avoid vendor lock in, which we just talked about with Microsoft, and to manage the critical cost quality trade offs we all face every day. The data points from AICC also strongly validate that agentic patterns and cost savvy routing aren't just theoretical concepts, they're being widely adopted in production environments, showing real impact on the bottom line and operational efficiency. That's something worth paying attention to. Now, let's take a deep dive into Colorado's new material influence AI law. I think this is the most important story of the batch because it reframes AI regulation around impact instead of just labels. It governs any system that materially influences consequential decisions, offering a much clearer compliance path than those broad, often vague, high risk categories we've heard so much about. What exactly happened? Colorado passed SB 26-189, a significant update that actually replaces its previous law, SB 24-205, before it even had a chance to be enforced. This new bill shifts the focus dramatically from category based rules like this type of AI is high risk to outcome based standards. It's saying if your automated tool, whatever it is, makes a meaningful difference in someone's life when it comes to things like their job, a loan application, getting a house, or even education benefits, then it falls under this regulation. You've got to tell users it's an AI, be transparent about adverse outcomes, and provide a path for a human to review that decision. Why does this matter right now for the market, for products, and for us as developers? This isn't just another layer of bureaucracy. It's a clear signal to the market about what responsible AI looks like. For product development, it means transparency and human oversight aren't optional add ons anymore, they're core features. We're moving towards a world where your product needs to be able to explain itself and allow for human intervention if it's making a high stakes decision. This kind of clarity from a state legislature could and likely will become a template for other states, creating a more harmonized regulatory landscape that's actually actionable for builders. So, who should care about this? Honestly, if you're building anything with AI that touches people's lives in a meaningful way, this is for you, founders. This needs to be on your radar from day one. It impacts your product roadmap, your legal strategy, and your go to market plan. Baking compliance into the core design from the start is far cheaper and easier than trying to retrofit it later. Product managers, you're on the front lines here. Your user experience design needs to incorporate clear notices, easy to understand disclosures, and seamless human review pathways. It forces you to think deeply about the why behind every AI driven decision and how to communicate that. Engineering leaders. This means building auditability, explainability, and robust documentation into your AI architecture. You'll need to ensure your models, training data, and known limitations are all well documented and accessible for compliance. And yes, even indie hackers. Don't think you're too small. If your side project uses AI to recommend job candidates, assess credit worthiness, or qualify housing applications, even in a small way, this law applies to you. You need to understand these responsibilities. How would I think about this as a builder? This isn't just a legal hurdle, it's actually a design constraint that can lead to better products. Frame it as responsible AI by design. Instead of asking AI, so can we do this with AI? The question becomes, how can we do this with AI while ensuring human agency, transparency, and trust? Think about it like a model card for every critical AI component in your product. A quick summary of what it does, what data it uses, and where its limits are. This material influence standard forces us to consider the real world impact of our algorithms, which is a good thing. It's an opportunity to differentiate your product by building trust and demonstrating accountability rather than just chasing the next shiny feature. My no BS take on this Colorado law cuts through a lot of the regulatory noise we've heard over the past couple of years. It's pragmatic, it tells you what decisions to protect users on rather than getting bogged down in defining what type of AI tool is inherently high risk. This is a significant step towards actionable, responsible AI development, and it helps minimize the speculative label for builders trying to navigate the regulatory landscape. This is real and it's happening now. If you're finding this useful, hit follow in your podcast app right now. It takes 2 seconds and it's the best way to make sure you don't miss the next briefing. If you want one practical takeaway from today's episode, here it is. Audit your product features right now and map them to that material influence standard. This is something you can start in under 60 minutes, maybe even 30. Here's how to try it. First, spend about 30 minutes listing every AI driven decision or recommendation your product makes. Now, look at that list and identify any decision that affects what Colorado calls consequential outcomes. Things like employment, credit, housing, education, or access to public benefits. Second, for each of those identified AI driven decisions, ask yourself, does this AI materially influence the user's outcome in this area? If the answer is yes, then you need to act. Third, for those features, start drafting a simple one sentence user notice explaining that an AI is involved in that specific decision. Also, sketch out a quick process for how a user could request a meaningful human review if they feel they've been unfairly impacted by an adverse outcome from your AI. And finally, start a simple one-page model card for that particular AI feature. This document doesn't need to be complex. It just needs to clearly state its intended use, the type of training data it uses, and any known limitations or biases. Why is this specific experiment worth your time right now? Because this isn't just about Colorado. This functional, outcome based approach to AI regulation is smart, and it's likely to become a standard framework across other states and potentially even internationally. By proactively auditing your features against this material influence standard, you're not just preparing for compliance, you're building more responsible, transparent products. This helps you identify high risk areas early, build essential trust with your users, and future proof your product against similar regulations that are almost certainly coming down the pipeline. It's a direct investment in the long term viability and ethical standing of your product. That's it for today's No BS AI briefing. If this helped, follow the show in your podcast app and share it with one builder you know. And if you've got questions or topics you want covered, connect with me on LinkedIn and send them over. See you in the next briefing.